We're back with viewer mail here in Talking Law TV with Gene Brooks sticking around to answer some questions from our viewers. And the first one comes from Edna Lynn from the South Side from our toll-free line, who writes, I took my mother to the emergency room and she died while she was there. Is there anything she can do?
Well, I mean, obviously she's going to the emergency room. She was in bad shape probably to begin with, and it depends on what would happen there. Now, the tort reform laws of several years ago have made it more difficult to prove medical negligence, particularly against emergency rooms. So even if the doctors are negligent in the emergency room and his mother died, you wouldn't be able to sue or wouldn't be able to sustain the suit. You would have to show a higher standard, which is called gross negligence. And I would interpret that as meaning that she was basically ignored while she was in the emergency room. So she received at least some treatment while she was in the emergency room. There's probably nothing that can be done.
Okay, our next is from Nick P. from Boston, watching the show in a hotel room. I was in a car wreck and my insurance company won't pay my medical bills. What can I do?
Well, I guess it depends on what type of medical insurance he had. If he had med pay, a lot of policies have med pay, which means you can get the first several $1,000s of medical expenses paid. You should talk to the adjuster, and if they still won't pay it, then you send them a notice and you give them 60 days in which to pay it. And if they don't pay it, then you can probably file a bad faith insurance claim.
Now, if you have basic liability, do you have any medical coverage at all?
I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if med pay is like mandatory with every case, with every policy. I believe it is. I think it's with every policy.
Okay. Our next question is from April from Tybee, also from our toll-free line. She was in a car wreck and with someone whose insurance had expired. She has a lot of medical bills. Who does she sue?
And run that by me again. Her
she was in a car accident, and the person she was riding with, their insurance had expired.
And she was a passenger.
She was a passenger, and
okay.
Now she has a lot of bills.
Okay. Well, if the driver was at fault and that driver's insurance had expired, then she may need to look at her policy to see if she has uninsured motorist coverage. And if she has uninsured motorist coverage, since she was injured in a car, then it's likely covered, and she could. Now, she also may be able to sue the driver since she's a passenger. But if that driver was uninsured, then it's not going to be. It'll be less that she could do.
Yeah, interesting. Your insurance would cover you as a passenger in another car?
It's uninsured. If you were in a car accident, even if you're getting out of your car, for instance, and you're a pedestrian and you've just left your car and you get hit by an uninsured motorist, your UM will cover that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, UM is really good coverage.
Okay, our next question, Zach from Springfield, via the website. I hurt my back at work. My employer will only let me go to the doctor they choose. What can I do?
Well, that's part of workers' compensation. In workers' compensation, the employer has the right to choose which doctors you're going to be treated because they're going to be paying for it. Now, typically, they will choose doctors which may not be of most benefit to the client, and sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes they go to very good doctors. But if you don't like the first doctor, you do have a right to go back to the list, and it's a published list, usually on a pink sheet of paper somewhere in the place of employment, and there should be about 6 doctors listed there of various types. And you can choose and go to a second doctor, get a second opinion, without the insurance company's approval. Otherwise, you have to be referred by your first doctor.
Okay. Our next question is Buddy from Midway via the website. My wife was fired from her job. She's worked there for 10 years. She didn't do anything wrong. Can she sue her employer?
Not in Georgia unless she has some type of employment contract. And in Georgia is what they call employment at will. So even if you've done a great job for 10 or 20 years and the boss doesn't like the color shoes you wear, he can fire you.
Okay. Okay, quick question. Kim from Midtown. My husband was called to duty in National Guard. Will he have a job when he gets back?
Well, under federal law, the employer is required to hold his job until he comes back. And if they will not give him a job when he comes back, then they have a right of action under federal law.
Okay, thank you so much, Gene. If you have a question for one of our attorneys, you can call our toll-free number at 888-203-7LAW or visit us at the website at TalkingLawTV.com, where you can also watch all of our episodes online. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week.